Karen Anderson, everybody. Karen's going to say a few things about another period in Ewan's musical career.
Thanks, Gaz. Angela's going to come and stand by my side just because she should be. And next to Gaz, this is this particular era of Ewan's life. During the months before Ewan left us, I had the absolute privilege of spending regular sessions interviewing him, because I really felt we needed to keep more of the history of this extraordinary Australian musician, and also we thought it would give him something to hold on to, and it was an absolute gift. And I've got to tell you, dear Brian Devereaux, of the 30 things that I have recorded, 2 very long sessions are dedicated to his absolute laying down and an adoration of his time with you. So there you go. Plan was to make a book, but it may well now be a book of CDs because we've got his voice, and that's so much more precious. So we might do a book with photos in it. About a month before he left us, he said to me, "You know you're going to have to finish this one, Kaz, don't you?" And I just went, "Yeah, I know. So we're going to, with Ange by my side, this is the window into his career and some of his life recollections around the early 90s into the early mid-2000s. It was a period of great change, as Megan said before. The loss of his much-loved mum comes out on those tapes. How upsetting, how it threw him into this really transformative period, a lot of change in family life, a lot of joy also, new beginnings as well. He won a scratchy, won a lot of money, and he spent a lot of money really quickly, apparently. He finished playing his regular gigs and he was up playing with Steve Tebbett. He's coming up a lot, Steve. Up in North Queensland, Airlie Beach, at a place called Charlie's Around the Bend. And as Ewan says on this recording that I listened to again, and Charlie was around the bend, said Ewan. So on this particular night in 1993, and he remembered the year and probably the month, they were being hammered by drunken German backpackers. You'll play me, I don't know, whatever the hit of the 90s was. And Ewan did not want to play what they wanted to play what they were doing. But this night, this drunken crowd, this was one drunken backpacker crowd too many. And Ewan said he was done. And he got up and he said to Steve, "That's it, I'm done, it's over. I'm done, I'm giving up music." And so he went back to Brisbane and he filled out the forms and he applied for an IT degree at QUT, and he went and did it, and he says on these tapes, "I loved every minute, moment to end." It was just one of the best things he ever did. During this time, an agent contacted him about playing at the Brisbane City Travelodge Jazz and Blues Bar, so he got together a jazz and blues band. He said one of the things he says on the tapes is that his aspiration was to always play with people better than him. This is his humble spirit. Always thought he was not as good as everyone else, which is just bollocks. And so he got this fabulous band together. In a period of quite a number of years, they did fabulous things at the Travelodge. They went on to record a CD with Tony Byrne as producer, a CD called Turquoise. He said to Tony Byrne, "Can we have this CD sort of sound like a mix between Miles Davis and Stevie Ray Vaughan?" And Tony went, "I'll try, I'll do my best." And that CD went on to win Album of the Year at the Sunny Awards in 1995. That band morphed into the Ewan MacKenzie, into Credo. Angie, myself, Gary, who's been speaking here, Rick Caskey, who in his own words he called his rock over many, many years. On the Folk Rag interview, Rick's played with him forever. Andrew Dennis on drums, and later incarnations Karen Smythe, Angie's husband Kim Ambrose, and Yanni played with that band, and he loved that band. He really loved it. And he wrote so much for us. We played at the Healer. We started with no people there, and we ended up playing 2 nights a week with people out the back of the door, and I think many of you here probably were there at those times. That wasn't the only thing he did at that time. He also found time to play in theatre shows. He played in Still Standing, which he helped the playwrights with information to write. Barb Fordham was in that show. She's here, and toured with Long Gone Lonesome Cowgirls, played in Glamalot for the Lyric, talked about playing with Jamie Clark and how he was terrified of being next to Jamie Clark. He did film scores for Sally MacKenzie. He did Japanese animation music. He did just a wealth of things. He played with Wiley Reid in the Blues Super Band. What else did he do? Produced multiple albums, sensitively backed so many local singers, played at Pages on Mary and jazz repertoire for years. He met his loved folkies through Alison during this time and thrived in their supportive musical world. He maintained musical connections with dear friends like Robbie Stewart and Tony Mockridge at Fruit Bat Studios. He worked in IT for Toad Show and other places. And a first musical infatuation was, as Megan said, now calling him away, a different way. Django was beckoning, and we're also grateful he did. He also played lots of festivals. He went to New Zealand 5 times, National Folk Festival. And just to sum up, he was imperfectly perfect. He was the most fabulous person to have as a friend. He was like a brother. And we will miss him dearly. And the thing is, we all felt like, because he gave us that, we all felt like we were the one, like we were right in his zone, and we were, because that's who he was. Just on leaving, I'd just like to thank, in the time when he was, in his last months, the care that came from a small group of people, Lisetta and Megan, Glenys and Andy, Ewan and Bob, was quite extraordinary. Just to see the gift of that beautiful care that was given to him. So, such love. So thank you.
I'd also like to say that give a special thanks to Karen, because this afternoon I don't think it would be possible if she hadn't put so much effort into it. Good on you, Karen. Now, on my little list here, I had Swing Dynamique coming up to speak, but I was so busy at the start, I wasn't sure who was going to do it.
Hello everyone, my name's Dan Cosgrove, and behind me are Swing Dynamique. We know a lot of you, and through the band of course, and a lot of you we don't. I'll put you at ease to begin with. I'm the only one that's going to speak. And like a lot of musicians, I do like to talk as much as I like to play, but I'm not going to speak for very long. On my right is The Rock, Rick Haskey. On my left is Miranda Deutsch, who plays guitar, and Jan van Dyke, who plays violin. I want to first thank Lisetta and Ewan's family for the beautiful generosity that they extended to us in these last 4 weeks or so, around the time of Ewan's passing, and in that I'm talking about the inclusion in a lot of very close events with the family. And part of that comes from me thinking, well, I'm just a member of Ewan's band, and there's, but then I hear this stuff, and I've been thinking about that and thinking, well, hang on, I'm not just a member of a band. This was Ewan's band. This was his last Manouche band. So I guess on behalf of the band, in the time that since he's left us, we've dwelled and considered and realised that he chose us to play in this band, and he was arguably, not even arguably, he was the best. He was the best gypsy guitarist in Australia, in my opinion. So he could have had anybody play with him, and he chose each of us, and I kind of share Robin's sentiments when he talked about merit and so forth, and I certainly didn't think I was of the same calibre. But he saw something in us that he wanted and loved, and he had a great knack of forming great bands. Now, I haven't done a whole lot of research about the Manouche trip. There'll be plenty of people that can tell you the history of that. We've all been involved with the music with him for a long time, and I guess all we want to say is how honoured and privileged we were to be part of that journey with Ewan. We all loved him, and he really loved us. Thank you.
I'll also underline that comment about Ewan's humility, and no way in the world did I. When I played with Ewan, I always felt like I was trying to catch up. Lisetta, are you going to speak? And Megan too. Fantastic.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, we will start.
Okay. So when I spoke before, I mentioned how Ewan told me about Lisetta and Merthyr, and he called her up and he put her on the phone. He was so excited for us to meet. She was this really amazing person, very special. And would you like to say something?
Yeah. It's a bit daunting. It's hard to put Ewan on a piece of paper. He's larger than life, passionate, sensitive,
Go a bit closer.
driven. You'd say?
Yeah.
I really have never met anyone like him in my life. It's just the most overwhelming time for me at the moment, and we've had a big journey over the years. And I'm very sad, but I will say about Swing Dynamic, he always said that was the band. And that's why he didn't call it Ewan MacKenzie, because he wanted them to be able to play without him as Swing Dynamic. And he recorded all those albums at home. And
Yeah.
I think that's
What
pretty
about
much...
your father? The story
Yeah,
of your father?
Dad was in muso, so there might be a couple of people here that
Yeah.
might have known my father, but
He actually,
meeting Ewan was like coming home. He was the music,
Django.
the goosebumps, the soloing over the chord changes. It just felt so right to me. And his intelligence, his use of words, we rescue moths out of the washing up water. No insects were harmed in our house. It was different if you were lagging on the pomp or bad sound, then you copped it. But the little creatures were very precious.
The
Such a
birds.
gentle giant.
Yeah.
And thank you all for coming. And thanks to everybody.
That's great.
Before we conclude our ceremony this afternoon, a few words about the rest of the evening. From 6 p.m, musical tributes will follow in the River Room. Thanks to Lisa Lombardi, who will act as MC, and Robin Walsh, who's our stage manager. From about 8 o'clock, there will be a jam on stage inside, or if you're a musician or you want to become a musician, you can feel free to join all the acoustic instruments which will be outside at the point to jam here as well. So there'll be lots of music and lots of drinking, I should think too, which is fantastic. There is a condolence book in the front of the foyer and a card, a big card for people to write things on. When I was told it was in the foyer, but I think someone said they're going to move it in closer into the main auditorium. I would now like to invite you all to follow the piper who will lead us to the water's edge.